$10 million. Leave my sister. The voice on the other end of the phone, my sister-in-law-to-be, was trembling, laced with tears. I laughed. 10 million? To me, your sister isn't worth a dime right now. Logan, you bastard. She hung up. I stare at the photo I'd just received on my phone. A picture of them eloping, the bride-to-be holding the arm of another man. My best friend. And tomorrow, I was supposed to marry her sister, the one who hated my guts. Logan, I'm sorry. I've left with Caleb. Forget me. The message on the screen was the last I'd ever get from Clara Sutton. The timestamp was 10:00 p.m. The location was the hotel suite where we were supposed to get married tomorrow. Outside, the lights of New York City glittered like a river of stars, but my heart was a block of ice. I didn't reply. I just calmly dialed a number. Hello, Dad. On the other end, my father, Warren Vance, sounded tired but festive. Logan, still up this late? You're getting married tomorrow. Get some rest. Dad, the wedding might have to be called off. My voice was devoid of emotion. What? Warren's voice shot up an octave. Logan, do you have any idea what you're saying? Do you know what tomorrow is? The Vance and Sutton families are merging. Everyone is watching. You can't just call it off. Clara ran off, I said, dropping the bomb without ceremony. Dead silence on the other end. After a full 30 seconds, Warren's voice, tight with fury, came through. With who? Caleb Shaw. That son of a bitch. I heard something crash in the background. That backstabbing bastard. And that Sutton girl. Absolutely shameless. I listened quietly, my fingers unconsciously tracing the rim of a cold glass. Does the Sutton family know yet? Warren, ever the shrewd businessman, calmed down quickly. They shouldn't. Clara left directly from the hotel. Good, good. Warren repeated the word, but his tone was ice cold. Stay put at the hotel. Don't move. I'm calling Robert Sutton right now. Robert Sutton, Clara's father, my would-be father-in-law. After hanging up, I walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window and looked down at the city's nocturnal sprawl. The face that came to mind wasn't Clara's. It was her sister's, Stella Sutton, and her eyes, always so stubborn and distant. Clara and I had been engaged for a year, and I could count the number of times we'd met on one hand. This was a business merger, plain and simple. The Vance family needed the Suttons' distribution channels in the renewable energy sector. The Suttons needed a massive capital injection from the Vance family to solve their cash flow crisis. We were just pawns in the deal. I didn't care. In fact, I welcomed it. It was the only way I could legitimately enter the Suttons' world. The only way I could get closer to Stella. But I never expected Clara to give me a surprise this big. Caleb Shaw, my once best friend, the VP of my company, the man I trusted most. The irony was suffocating. Less than half an hour later, the suite door was thrown open. My father, Warren, and my future father-in-law, Robert, stormed in with key members of both families, their faces grim. The moment Robert Sutton saw me, he rushed forward, his voice trembling. Logan, where's Clara? Where's she? His wife, my would-be mother-in-law, Carol, followed close behind, her eyes already red. I pointed to the phone on the table. Mr. Sutton, see for yourself. With a shaking hand, Robert picked up the phone. When he saw the message and the attached photo of Clara and Caleb looking cozy at the airport, his vision blurred, and he nearly collapsed. That wretched girl. That wretched girl. Robert was shaking with rage, jabbing a finger at the photo. She's dragged the Sutton name through the mud. Carol covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face in silence. Robert, now is not the time for yelling. My father's face was dark enough to curdle water. The wedding announcement has been out for weeks. Every important person in New York will be there tomorrow. If we have an empty altar, both our families will become the city's laughingstock. Our company's stock prices will plummet. His words snapped Robert out of his fury. He looked up sharply, a flicker of panic in his eyes. Then what do we do? Where can we find her now? Find her. Warren scoffed. She's eloped. You want to drag her back now, so she can stand at the altar tomorrow with a miserable face for everyone to see? You want the whole world to know my son's wife is in love with another man. Robert was speechless, his face turning a deep shade of purple. The atmosphere in the suite was suffocating. Everyone was powerless, like ants on a hot pan. I remained silent, a cold observer. Just then, a cool, clear voice, tinged with urgency, came from the doorway. Dad, Mom, what's wrong? Where's my sister? Stella had arrived. She wore a simple white dress, her long hair loose over her shoulders. Her face was bare of makeup, yet she was so beautiful it was hard to look away. When she saw the tense standoff in the room, her lovely brows furrowed slightly, a hint of unease in her eyes. Carol grabbed her, as if she were a lifeline, sobbing uncontrollably. Stella, your sister. Your sister ran away. What? Stella's face went pale. She was clearly stunned. Ran away? Where did she go? No one answered. Robert Sutton stared at her, a strange light glinting in his eyes, like a drowning man grasping at a final piece of driftwood. He walked towards Stella, step by step, his voice hoarse but filled with an undeniable finality. Stella, from now on, you're Logan Vance's bride. Tomorrow, you will take your sister's place at the wedding. No. Stella's scream shattered the dead silence in the suite. She looked at her father in disbelief, her beautiful eyes wide with shock and resistance. Dad, are you insane? Make me marry him in my sister's place? How is that even possible? Robert's face was twisted with anger and shame. He grabbed Stella's wrist, hissing, How is it not possible? Your sister did this shameless thing, disgracing our entire family. If tomorrow's wedding is canceled, the Sutton family is finished. Do you want to stand by and watch our family go bankrupt? That doesn't mean you can make me marry him. Stella struggled to pull her hand away, tears welling in her eyes. He's my brother-in-law. How could I? He's not your brother-in-law yet. Robert cut her off brutally. Once you marry him tomorrow, he will be your husband. This is final. I won't marry him. Stella defiantly lifted her chin, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. I would rather die than marry this man. She whipped her head around, glaring at me with pure hatred. Her gaze was a knife dipped in ice, plunging straight into my heart. Logan, are you satisfied now? My sister ran away, and now you're all turning on me. Do you find it amusing to play with us sisters? I looked at her tear-streaked face, my heart clenching as if squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain making it hard to breathe. I wanted to tell her, no, I never wanted to play with you. From the very beginning, all I ever wanted was you. But I couldn't say it. In this situation, any explanation would be laughably weak. My father, Warren, walked over with a frown, sizing Stella up with a critical eye before turning to me. Logan, what's your decision? All eyes in the room turned to me. Stella looked at me too, her eyes filled with hatred and something else. A plea? She was begging me to say no. I took a deep breath, met her gaze, and slowly, clearly, uttered one word. I agree. When I said it, I clearly saw the last flicker of light in Stella's eyes die out. It was as if all her strength had been drained away. Her body swayed, and if Carol hadn't been holding her, she would have collapsed. You, all of you. Her lips trembled, unable to form a complete sentence. Excellent. Robert slapped his thigh, as if a great weight had been lifted. Logan, don't you worry. The Sutton family will make it up to you. Stella may be young, but she's 100 times better than that worthless sister of hers. He then turned to Stella, his tone softening slightly, but still carrying an unyielding authority. Stella, stop this tantrum. This is for the good of our family, and for you. Logan is a brilliant young man. You won't be losing out by marrying him. For my own good? Stella suddenly laughed, a laugh more painful than any cry. For my good is treating me like a piece of merchandise, a substitute, to be casually handed over to someone else? She pulled away from Carol and walked toward me, step by step, until she was so close I could smell the faint scent of gardenia in her hair. Logan Vance, you tell me, on what grounds? On what grounds do you get to destroy my sister's happiness, and now come to destroy my life? My throat felt tight. I didn't. You didn't? She interrupted with a desolate smile. Do you dare say you were good to my sister? Do you dare say you love her? You only wanted the Sutton family's connections, using her as a stepping stone to climb higher. Now that she's seen you for who you are and left with the man she loves, you're furious. So you've turned your revenge on me, right? Her every word was a needle piercing my heart. So this is who I was in her mind, a vile, shameless opportunist. I looked at her, desperately wanting to tell her everything. To tell her I agreed to the merger not for the Sutton family connections, but for her. To tell her I never loved Clara, that I wished she would just disappear. To tell her that the one I loved from the very beginning was always her, Stella Sutton. But looking into those eyes filled with hatred, I knew it was useless. She wouldn't believe me. Rather than a futile explanation, it was better to let her hate me. At least this way, she would stay by my side. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, they were filled with cold indifference. Are you done? If you're done, go get ready. I'll see you at the city clerk's office tomorrow. 8 a.m. My coldness completely broke her. She stumbled back a step, all the color draining from her face. Logan, you're a monster. With those words, she turned and ran out of the room. Carol started to follow, but was pulled back by Robert. Let her go. Once she's had her tantrum, she'll be back. Robert snorted, then turned to my father with a smile. Warren, My apologies for this display. My youngest is just immature. I'll be sure to have a firm talk with her when we get home. Warren Vance forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I certainly hope so. Tomorrow is a big day for the Vance and Sutton families. I don't want any more surprises. Of course, of course. And just like that, the absurd drama concluded. The Suttons left, and my father departed with his people. Before he left, he patted my shoulder, his expression complicated. Logan, you've been wronged. I shook my head, saying nothing. Wronged? No. Marrying her was something I had schemed for, something I had pursued relentlessly. No matter how ugly or humiliating the process, as long as the result was her, I would accept it. I just never imagined the price would be her tears and her hatred. Stella, I'm sorry, but I have no regrets. The next morning, 8 a.m., outside the Manhattan city clerk's office. When I arrived, Stella was already there. She was wearing the same white dress from last night, with a beige trench coat over it. She stood alone on the steps, her figure so frail it looked like a gust of wind could blow her away. Her eyes were red and swollen. She had clearly cried all night. When my car pulled up, she gave it a dismissive glance before turning away, not gracing me with a single extra expression. I got out of the car and walked up to her. Let's go. She didn't move or speak, just stared at a sycamore tree across the street like a soulless statue. I waited patiently for 2 minutes. Stella, my time is valuable, I said coldly. If you want the Sutton family to disappear from New York by the end of the day, feel free to keep standing here. That clearly struck a nerve. She whipped her head around to glare at me, her eyes burning with fury. Logan, besides threatening me with my family, what else are you good for? Marrying you, I said, my face a mask, then grabbed her wrist. Ignoring her struggles, I dragged her inside. Throughout the entire process, she was silent, like a puppet at the mercy of its master. When it was time for the photo, the photographer smiled. Bride and groom, a little closer, please. Smile. I pulled my lips into a smile devoid of any warmth, then put my arm around her shoulder, drawing her closer. Her body was as stiff as a board. The photographer, sensing the awkwardness, coughed and quickly snapped the picture. In the photo, my smile was fake, her face an icy mask. Holding the red marriage certificate, my heart felt no joy, only a heavy weight. Walking out of the building, the sunlight was harsh. Stella wrenched her hand from mine as if she'd touched something filthy. We have the certificate. Are you satisfied? She asked, looking at me coldly. This is just a transaction between us. Outside of putting on a show for our parents, I expect you not to interfere in my life. For instance, my life, my friends, my everything, she said, enunciating each word. And remember, I'm not Clara. Don't even think about touching me. We sleep in separate rooms. So much for her sister's nickname. The pain from last night must have been immense. Fine, I nodded. As long as you behave yourself and play the part of Mrs. Vance, I won't bother you. She seemed surprised that I agreed so readily, pausing for a moment. Get in the car. The wedding is at noon. We need to go back and change. I opened the car door for her, making a gesture to enter. She hesitated before finally getting in. Back at the hotel, a team of top-tier makeup artists and stylists was waiting. Stella was pushed into a chair in front of a vanity, letting them paint her face and dress her in a custom-made, high-end wedding gown. It had originally been designed for Clara, but Stella was thinner than her sister, so it hung loosely on her. The stylist had to make emergency alterations for half an hour before it finally fit. When I emerged from the dressing room in my suit, everyone in the room gasped in awe. The Stella in the mirror was breathtakingly beautiful. The pure white lace gown clung to her slender frame, a long veil cascading down, obscuring half her face, revealing only a pair of empty, mournful eyes. She looked like a sacrifice about to be offered, beautiful, fragile, and utterly hopeless. My heart began to ache again. Mr. Vance, Mrs. Vance, it's about time. We should head to the ballroom, the wedding planner said respectfully. I nodded, walked to Stella, and extended my hand. She stared at my hand, hesitating. I leaned in close, whispering in a voice only she could hear, Stella, smile, or I can't guarantee Robert Sutton will see tomorrow's sunrise. Her body trembled violently. Then, she slowly raised her hand and placed it in mine. It was as cold as ice. The wedding was grand and opulent. All of New York's high society was in attendance. We walked down the aisle to the officiant's passionate speech and the guests' thunderous applause. Exchanging rings, the kiss. When my lips touched hers, I could feel her shaking. Her lips were as cold as her hands. It was a kiss devoid of any emotion, performed purely for ceremony. In the audience, my father and my father-in-law were beaming, as if the previous night's unpleasantness had vanished into thin air. They got what they wanted, a powerful alliance, their interests intertwined. And I too got what I wanted, except what I got was an empty shell, a body without a soul. Throughout the wedding, Stella was a marionette, following my instructions, smiling at guests, accepting their congratulations. She played her part so well that no one noticed anything was wrong. Only I knew what a broken, frozen heart lay hidden beneath that perfect smile. It wasn't until the reception ended and the last guest had departed that we returned to the lavish bridal suite. The moment the door closed, the mask on Stella's face shattered. She tore the veil from her head, threw it violently to the floor, and began frantically ripping at her wedding dress. Enough. Stop acting. There's no one else here now. She screamed at me, her eyes red. I watched her quietly, not stopping her. The zipper was in the back. She couldn't get it on her own, and her frustration brought fresh tears to her eyes. I walked toward her and reached out. Don't touch me. She recoiled like a startled animal, watching me warily. I'll help you. My voice was hoarse. I don't need your help, she said stubbornly, turning her back to me and continuing her struggle with the zipper. I sighed, wrapped my arms around her from behind, and held her tight, ignoring her struggles. Stella, stop it. My chin rested in the crook of her neck. I could smell the fresh scent of her hair and the salt of her tears. Her body instantly went rigid, then began to tremble violently. Let me go. Logan, I'm begging you, let me go. Her voice was a choked sob, full of desperation and despair. My heart felt like it was being stabbed. I released her, took a step back, and put distance between us. There are clothes for you in the walk-in closet. Go change. You can have the master bedroom. I'll sleep in the guest room. Without another look at her, I turned and left the room. Behind me, I heard her suppressed sobs. I leaned against the cold door of the guest room, slowly sliding to the floor. I raised a hand and slapped myself across the face. Logan Vance, you really are a bastard. Married life was as still as stagnant water. We moved into a villa under the Vance family name, a place my mother had loved with a large garden. We strictly adhered to our prenuptial agreement. Separate rooms, no interference. Except for family dinners at the Vance or Sutton estates, where we had to play the part of a loving couple. We were strangers living under the same roof. She usually woke up early. By the time I was up, she had already left for her studio. She was an independent jewelry designer, moderately famous, with her own brand and studio. She came home late, sometimes after I was already asleep. We barely exchanged a few words a day. I always ate alone at the massive dining table. The sprawling villa was terrifyingly quiet. This day was a weekend, which meant it was time for our family dinner at the Vance estate. When I came downstairs, Stella was already dressed and waiting for me on the living room sofa. She wore a pale blue dress and light makeup, looking gentle and serene. Let's go. She stood up when she saw me, her tone flat. In the car, we were silent. As we neared the estate, I suddenly spoke. You know how to act in front of my family. She stared straight ahead and gave a cool, I parked the car, got out, walked around to the passenger side to open her door, and then naturally took her hand. She instinctively tried to pull back, but after meeting my warning glance, she complied, letting me hold it. When we walked into the living room, most of the Vance relatives were already there. My father, Warren, sat in the head seat. Seeing us walk in hand, a satisfied smile spread across his face. Logan, Stella, come sit with me. Dad, we said it in unison. The relatives all greeted us with smiles. Don't Logan and Stella look more and more like a married couple every day? Yes, a perfect match, made in heaven. Stella maintained a polite smile, responding to each of them flawlessly. Her performance was impeccable. At the dinner table, my Aunt Brenda suddenly spoke up with a grin. Stella, you and Logan have been married for almost a month now. Any news from that belly of yours? Stella's hand, which was reaching for a dish, froze. The smile on her face stiffened. I squeezed her hand under the table, then smiled at my aunt. Aunt Brenda, we can't rush these things. We want to enjoy being a couple for another year or two. Being a couple is fine, but you should have kids early, Aunt Brenda pressed on. Look at your father. He's waiting so eagerly for a grandchild his hair is turning white. Warren chuckled in agreement. Your aunt is right. Logan, Stella, you two need to move on. Stella's face grew paler and paler. She shot me a pleading look. I gave her a reassuring glance and was about to intervene when my cousin Kyle, who had always resented me, spoke up in a snide tone. Cousin, Stella, don't tell me you two are still sleeping in separate rooms. Kyle was my uncle's son and had been jealous of me since we were kids, always trying to undermine me. The moment he said it, the entire table fell silent. Everyone's eyes were on us, filled with curiosity and suspicion. My father's expression darkened. A surge of anger rose in me, and was about to lash out when Stella suddenly laughed. She affectionately linked her arm with mine, rested her head on my shoulder, and said in a flirtatious tone, "Oh, Kyle, how did you know? Logan and I made a bet. Whoever gives in first loses and has to grant the other one a wish. What do you all think I should make him promise me?" Her smile was bright, her eyes mischievous, a world away from her usual icy demeanor. Her playful, girlish act made everyone laugh. Haha, so it's just the young ones playing their games. Logan, you better step up your game. Don't lose to our Stella here. A brewing family crisis was effortlessly defused by her. I looked at her, surprised. She happened to look back at me at the same moment, a flash of pride and defiance in her eyes. It was as if she were saying, "See, I don't need you. I can handle this just fine." I had a smile. This woman was truly something else. On the drive back, the smile vanished from her face, replaced by her usual keep-your-distance mask. "Thank you for today," I said genuinely. "Don't mention it," she said, looking out the window, her tone distant. I was just fulfilling my obligation, playing the part of Mrs. Vance. After all, I don't want anything to happen to the Sutton family. Her words stung my heart again. So everything she did was for her family. It had nothing to do with me. The atmosphere in the car dropped back to freezing. Back at the villa, she was about to head straight upstairs to her room without a word. "Wait," I stopped her. She paused on the stairs and looked back at me, her eyes impatient. I took a velvet box from my pocket and held it out to her. "What is this?" she frowned. "Open it." She gave me a suspicious look, but took the box and opened it. Inside was an exquisitely designed necklace. The pendant was a star, studded with tiny diamonds that glittered under the light. It was one of her own designs, released from her studio last month. It was a limited edition of 3, priced in the 7 figures. The moment I saw it, I knew it was perfect for her. Her name, Stella, meant star. She froze when she saw the necklace. "You? Next week is the anniversary of my mother's death. You're coming with me." "Where this?" I interrupted, my tone leaving no room for argument. She was silent for a moment, then closed the box and uttered 2 cold words. "I know." With that, she turned and went upstairs. I watched her go, a mix of emotions churning inside me. "Stella, what am I going to do with you? I thought that by tying you to my side, time would make you see my good qualities. But now I realize all I've gotten is a back that's moving further and further away." Just then, my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered it. "Hello." A voice I never expected to hear came from the other end. "Logan, it's me. Caleb Shaw." My pupils contracted instantly. "What do you want?" I walked to the window, my voice as cold as ice. Caleb chuckled on the other end, his tone as relaxed as if we were still the best of friends. "Logan, don't be so hostile. I just wanted to call and say congratulations on your wedding." "Thanks to you," I sneered. "Where are you and Clara now?" "We're in a beautiful place. Sunshine, beaches, waves. Oh, and Clara is right here beside me. She says she misses you." As he spoke, Clara's syrupy voice came through the line. "Logan, I'm so sorry. You're not mad at me, are you? Caleb understands me better than you, and he loves me more. We're truly in love. Just be happy for us, okay?" Truly in love? I almost laughed out loud. If I hadn't already discovered that before Caleb left the company, he had used his position to secretly embezzle $50 million in liquid assets, I might have actually believed the lies of this pathetic pair. "Be happy for you?" I said slowly. "Sure. Caleb, you give me back my $50 million, and not only will I be happy for you, I'll personally send you a generous wedding gift and wish you a lifetime of happiness." The other end went silent. A few seconds later, Caleb's voice came back, this time laced with anger. "Logan, what are you talking about?" "You know damn well what I'm talking about," my voice hardened. "Caleb, did you really think you covered your tracks? Embezzlement of company funds, a massive amount. That's enough to keep you in prison for the rest of your life. You're slandering me." Caleb's breathing became noticeably ragged. "I didn't take any company money." "No," I scoffed. "The accounting department's ledgers are crystal clear on every single transaction. I've already filed a police report. They can open a case at any time. Now tell me, if I hand the evidence over to the authorities, do you think they'll come find you on your tropical island first, or will they freeze your parents' assets back in the States?" "Logan, you wouldn't dare." Caleb finally dropped the act, roaring in fury. "Watch me," I said word by word. "I'm giving you 3 days. Return the money, then take Clara and get as far away from me as possible. Never show your faces again. Otherwise, you'll face the consequences." I hung up and immediately blocked the number. I leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. The frustration that had been building for a month finally began to dissipate. I didn't actually expect Caleb to return the money. That call was a warning shot, but more than that. It was a test. I wanted to know who was behind him and Clara. For them to disappear from the country so easily and live so lavishly abroad, someone had to be pulling the strings. And that someone was very likely a major business rival of the Vance or Sutton families. At that thought, my gaze hardened. As I was pondering this, I heard soft footsteps on the stairs. I turned to see Stella standing at the top of the landing, her face pale as she stared at me. She must have come down at some point. How much had she heard? Our eyes met. The air seemed to solidify. Who were you just talking to? She asked, her voice trembling. No one important. I didn't want her involved in this dirty business. It was Caleb, wasn't it? She walked toward me, her eyes locked on mine. I heard you. You talked about returning money, about embezzlement. What is going on? So, she had heard everything. There was no point in hiding it anymore. It's exactly what you heard. Caleb Shaw stole $50 million from the company and ran off with your sister. Impossible. Stella shrieked, her emotions running high. Caleb would never do something like that. He wouldn't steal. It must be you. You framed him to get revenge for him taking my sister. Caleb? She said his name with such familiarity. An unnamed fire ignited in my gut, burning away all reason. I stepped forward, grabbed her chin, and forced her to look at me, my eyes glacial. Frame him? Stella, in your mind, am I really that despicable? To frame my own friend over a woman I never even loved. Aren't you? She shot back without flinching, her eyes filled with disappointment and contempt. You treat your own marriage like a business deal. Is there anything you wouldn't do? Fine. Just fine. I laughed, a harsh, angry sound, and let her go. I pulled out my phone, found a few photos, and shoved the screen in her face. They were bank transfer records and forged financial documents bearing Caleb's signature. The evidence was irrefutable. See for yourself. This is the honorable, kind Caleb you're defending. Stella stared at the photos in disbelief, her body swaying. No, this can't be real. You must have forged this. Forged it. I sneered. I can hand this over to the police and the courts at any time. They'll give you an answer as to whether it's real or fake. Stella was speechless. The color drained from her face until it was as white as paper. She had always believed that her sister and Caleb were breaking free to pursue true love. She had even silently wished them well. But now, reality had delivered a brutal slap to the face. The beautiful love story she had imagined was built on a foundation of lies and betrayal from the very beginning. Why? How could this happen? She murmured, tears falling like broken pearls. Seeing her lost and broken, the anger in my heart was instantly replaced by a sharp pang of pain. I stepped forward, wanting to hold her, to comfort her. But the moment I reached out, she flinched back as if startled, looking at me as if I were a stranger. So, you marry me not just for the family merger, but for revenge, right? You get revenge on my sister, on Caleb, and while you're at it, you drag me, the clueless fool, into your scheme. Her voice was soft, but her words struck me like a sledgehammer. I didn't scheme against you, I said, looking at her, enunciating each word. My voice was hoarse from suppressing my emotions. No. Stella gave a desolate smile, tears blurring her vision and my image in her eyes. Logan, after all this, are you still going to lie to me? You knew all along that Caleb was going to embezzle the money and run. You knew my sister would go with him, so you played along, pretending to be the victim, and then you smoothly pushed me forward as a substitute, trapping me by your side. You enjoy this feeling of manipulating everyone, don't you? Watching us suffer and break our hearts over the trap you set. Does it give you a sense of accomplishment? Her accusations were soul-crushing. I opened my mouth, but any defense felt weak and pathetic. Yes, I admit, I took advantage of the chaos. But I didn't do it for revenge or for sport. I just wanted her so badly. Stella, it's not what you think. I tried to take her hand. Don't touch me, she screamed, snatching her hand away as if from a venomous snake. She stumbled back, keeping a safe distance, her once clear eyes now filled with fear and disgust. Logan, you're terrifying. I used to just dislike you. Now, I'm afraid of you. With that, she turned and ran upstairs, locking herself in her room. My outstretched hand froze in midair. My heart sank to the bottom of a cold, dark pit. Terrifying? So that's what I had become to her. I let out a bitter laugh and collapsed onto the sofa. Only a single dim floor lamp was on, casting my shadow long and distorted across the room, a lonely, pathetic silhouette. I didn't go to the guest room. I sat on the sofa all night. Early the next morning, I was still bleary-eyed when I heard a door open upstairs. I immediately stood up. Stella was coming down with a small suitcase. She was dressed in a sharp business suit, her makeup perfectly applied, hiding all traces of tears and exhaustion. But the icy, unapproachable aura around her was stronger than ever. "Where are you going?" I asked, blocking her path with a frown. "A business trip," she said curtly. "Where? For how long?" "Mr. Vance." She raised her eyes to meet mine, her tone distant, even changing the way she addressed me. "I believe we had an agreement. No interference. My work schedule doesn't require your approval, does it?" Her words left me speechless. "Yes, we had that agreement. But now I regretted it." "Stella, don't be like this." My tone softened. "I was wrong last night. I shouldn't have lost my temper with you. But the thing with Caleb is true. I wasn't lying." "I know," she replied calmly, almost unnaturally so. "He deserves what's coming to him. But that's a separate issue from you using me as a pawn." "I didn't move." She cut me off coldly, unwilling to hear any more of my excuses. I stood my ground, staring at her. We were at a standoff, like two trapped animals. In the end, I was the first to yield. I stepped aside, clearing a path for her. She didn't even glance at me as she walked past, pulling her suitcase behind her. The click of her heels on the floor echoed each step, a hammer blow to my heart. The door opened, then closed. The world fell silent. I stood there for a long time. It wasn't until my phone vibrated in my pocket that I was pulled back to reality. It was my assistant, Mark Peterson. "Mr. Vance, we have an update. Caleb Shaw and Clara Sutton are in Bali. The man behind them is Victor Croft of Voyager Group." Voyager Group. Victor Croft. Just as I suspected. Croft was a new player who had risen quickly in New York's business world over the last few years. He was ruthless, ambitious, and had always seen Vance Industries as a thorn in his side, competing with us on several major projects. I never thought he would stoop to infiltrating my own company. "I see," I said, my voice cold. "Keep an eye on them. Gather all evidence of Croft's contact with Shaw, and get in touch with our people in Bali. It's time to close the net." "Understood." Hanging up, a vicious glint appeared in my eyes. "Victor Croft, Caleb Shaw, you brought this on yourselves. Don't blame me for being ruthless. As for Stella," I took out my phone and dialed another number. "Hello, I need you to find out where Stella Sutton just went. No matter where she ran, I had to know where she was. I couldn't let her get hurt again." I put down the phone and looked out the window. The sky was overcast, looking like it was about to rain. Stella had gone to a 3-day jewelry design conference in a neighboring city. Knowing where she was, I felt a sense of relief. It might be good for her to get away, to cool down. For those 3 days, I threw myself entirely into my work. The plan against Voyager Group was proceeding at full speed. Mark gave me daily updates. Victor Croft thought he was being clever, but he had no idea his every move was under my surveillance. He had transferred funds to Caleb through an offshore shell corporation as seed money to take down Vance Industries. Caleb, in turn, used that money to register an investment firm in Bali and started contacting suppliers and clients who'd had disputes with us in the past, try to poach our business. Everything was going according to my script. All I had to do was wait for them to expose more weaknesses, then deliver the fatal blow. On the evening of the third day, I had just finished a video conference when my phone rang. It was Stella. Seeing her name flash on the screen, my heart skipped a beat. It was the first time she had called me since she left. I took a deep breath to compose myself before answering. "Hello, Logan." Her voice on the other end was choked with suppressed sobs and thick with congestion. She sounded like she had a cold. My heart instantly clenched. "What's wrong? What happened?" I asked urgently. I'm stuck at the hotel. There's a massive storm. Everything's flooded, and all the flights are canceled." Her voice was full of helplessness. "I have a fever, and I feel awful." "Are you alone?" "Yeah." "Which hotel?" She gave me the name of the hotel. "Stay in your room. Don't move. I'm on my way." I hung up, grabbed my car keys, and bolted out the door. "Mr. Vance, where are you going?" "What about?" "Your dinner meeting tonight. Mark called after me." "Cancel all of it." I threw the words over my shoulder as I ran into the elevator. The drive from New York to Philadelphia normally took 2 hours, but because of the storm, the highway was closed, forcing me onto local roads. The water on the roads was deep, slowing my progress to a crawl. The car nearly stalled several times. Night fell, and even with the windshield wipers on maximum, I could barely see the road ahead. I was frantic, wishing I could sprout wings and fly to her side. Her tearful voice saying, "I feel awful," echoed in my mind. The thought of her alone in a strange hotel room, burning with fever, felt like a knife twisting in my heart. It took me nearly 4 hours to finally reach her hotel. I was soaked to the bone and a complete mess, but I didn't bother checking in. I ran straight for the elevator. Finding her room number, I pounded on the door. Stella, open up. It's me. No response. My heart sank, and I banged on the door even harder. Stella Sutton, if you don't open this door, I'm kicking it in. Just as I was about to kick it, the lock clicked, and the door opened from the inside. Stella stood there in a white bathrobe, her hair damp and clinging to her shoulders. Her face was flushed with fever, and her eyes were glazed over as she looked at me. The moment she saw me, she seemed unable to believe it, just standing there, stunned. What are you doing here? The next second, her body went limp, and she collapsed toward me. Stella. I caught her just in time, scooping her into my arms. Her body was frighteningly hot. I carried her into the room, gently placed her on the bed, and wrapped her tightly in the covers. Wait here, I'm going to get you some medicine. I started to leave, but she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was weak, but determined. Don't go, she murmured deliriously, a tear sliding from the corner of her eye. I'm scared. My heart melted completely. I leaned down, brushed the damp hair from her forehead, and pressed a kiss to her feverish skin. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here with you. I used the hotel's electric kettle to boil water, found a towel, and spent the night gently sponging her down to lower her temperature. She was delirious, muttering things under her breath. I leaned in closer to hear what she was saying. She was calling out, Dad, Mom, don't leave me. My heart felt like it had been pierced. So, beneath her strong exterior was a fragile soul, starved for security. Years ago, her parents, consumed by their business, had sent her and her sister Clara to live with their grandmother in the countryside. They weren't brought back to the city until they were about to start elementary school. But even then, the love and attention they received was minimal. Robert and Carol Sutton only had eyes for their endless business deals and social events. Compared to the rebellious and flamboyant Clara, the quiet and well-behaved Stella was easily overlooked. That's why she craved her family's love so desperately. That's why, when Robert used the family business to pressure her, she had no choice but to comply, no matter how unwilling she was. I took her hot hand and brought it to my lips, my voice hoarse. Stella, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that when you needed someone most, I pushed you away in the most hurtful way possible. I'm sorry I didn't let you know my feelings sooner. I watched over her all night. Sometime after midnight, her fever finally started to break, and her breathing evened out. As dawn approached, I finally gave in to exhaustion, slumping over the side of the bed and falling into a deep sleep. I was woken by the ringing of a phone. I groggily opened my eyes and saw it was Stella's phone. She was still asleep, her brow furrowed in annoyance at the noise. I picked it up, intending to silence it, but froze when I saw the caller ID. The name on the screen was Sister. It was Clara. After a moment's hesitation, I answered the call and put it on speaker. Hello, Stella. Clara's self-righteous voice came through the line. I said nothing. Hello, why aren't you talking? Stella, don't you dare play dead with me. Clara was getting impatient. Listen, Caleb and I need money. I need you to wire us $5 million right away. I frowned. $5 million? The nerve. I don't have any money. On the bed, Stella, who had woken up at some point, struggled to sit up. She took the phone from my hand, her voice raspy. No money? How was that possible? Clara's voice shot up. You're Mrs. Logan Vance now. Logan is loaded. $5 million is pocket change to him. You can't even get that much from him? Stella, are you doing this on purpose? I'll say it again. I don't have any money. Stella's voice turned cold. And even if I did, why on earth would I give it to you? Why? Because I'm your sister. Clara screeched. Stella, don't forget, if I hadn't run off, you wouldn't be Mrs. Vance. Everything you have now should have been mine. You took my place, you're enjoying my life of luxury. So what's wrong with giving me a little money? The gangster logic was breathtaking. I saw Stella's face turn paler, the hand holding the phone trembling. Clara, she said, each word laced with an arctic chill. Listen carefully. First, I'm not enjoying any life of luxury. Every cent I spend is money I earn myself. Second, I don't give a damn about being Mrs. Vance. If you want the title, you can come back and take it any time. You? What do you mean? Clara was momentarily stunned into silence. I mean, Stella took a deep breath, as if mustering all her strength. Your life with Caleb Shaw has nothing to do with me. Don't ever call me again. She hung up. The room was plunged into silence. Stella hugged her knees, burying her head, her shoulders shaking slightly. She was crying, silently. I moved to sit beside her on the bed and gently pulled her into my arms. This time, she didn't push me away. She buried her face in my chest, and all the pain and resentment she had suppressed for so long finally came pouring out. Why? Why does everyone treat me like this? What did I do wrong? She cried like a child, gasping for breath. I held her tight, stroking her back again and again, my heart aching for her. You didn't do anything wrong, Stella. They're the ones who are wrong. It's my fault. I didn't protect you. I don't know how many times I repeated those words until her sobs quieted, and she fell asleep in my arms. I looked at her sleeping face, tear tracks still visible on her cheeks, and made a silent vow. Stella Sutton, from this day forward, I will never let anyone hurt you again. Not Clara, not Caleb, and not myself. The rain stopped. The floodwaters in Philadelphia gradually receded, and traffic returned to normal. Stella's fever was gone, though she was still weak. I didn't rush her back to New York, booking another night at the hotel. Over these 2 days, our relationship had subtly shifted. She was no longer cold to me. Though she still didn't talk much, she at least allowed me to get close. She would quietly eat the soup I bought for her, cooperate when I took her temperature, and, at night, she would subconsciously grip the corner of my shirt. These small changes filled me with a wild joy. That afternoon, she woke up feeling much better. We sat side by side on the balcony of our hotel room, watching the clear, rain-washed sky. Thank you for that night, she said suddenly, her voice still a little hoarse. Don't be silly, I said, ruffling her hair. I'm your husband. Taking care of you is my job. At the word husband, her body stiffened. She looked down and fell silent. I knew she hadn't yet overcome the barrier in her heart. I wasn't going to rush it. We had a lifetime. Caleb and my sister. What are you going to do about them? She asked after a moment. The law will give them the punishment they deserve, I answered calmly. Oh, she said, lapsing back into silence. I could see the conflict in her. On one side was disappointment and resentment toward her sister and her first crush. On the other, the unbreakable bonds of family and old feelings. Stella, I took her hand. There are some things you don't need to know or worry about. Just remember, I will handle everything. She looked up at me, her expression complex. Logan, what kind of person are you really? I smiled and asked her back, what do you think? A monster or a terrifying person? She was taken aback by my question, then looked away, embarrassed, the tips of her ears turning slightly red. Seeing this rare moment of bashfulness, my mood soared. I couldn't resist leaning in and kissing her on the cheek. Her face instantly turned as red as a ripe apple. She pushed me away, glaring at me in mock anger. What was that for? I couldn't help myself. I grinned like a cat that got the cream. Just then my phone rang. It was Mark. I put a finger to my lips in a gesture and answered. Mr. Vance, Victor Croft is making a move. Mark's voice was tinged with excitement. He seems to have sensed something. He started moving assets and is preparing to send Shaw and Sutton somewhere further away. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. The fish is taking the bait. Yes, and we found something even more interesting. Mark paused for dramatic effect. Croft has a man inside the Sutton Corporation. My expression turned to ice. Who? The vice president of Sutton Corp., Vince Harmon. He's been one of Robert Sutton's most trusted men for years. We found out that Sutton's recent failed bids were his doing. He was leaking their proposals to Croft. I let out a cold laugh. Victor Croft. He really got around. It seemed he wasn't just trying to destroy my company. He wanted to swallow the Suttons as well. Compile the evidence and send it to me. Right away. After hanging up, I saw Stella looking at me with a worried expression. Is something wrong? Just a small problem, I said, trying to sound casual so she wouldn't worry. She clearly didn't believe me, but didn't press further, just watched me quietly. Let's go back to New York tomorrow, I said. Okay. The next morning, we drove back to the city. Stella was quiet the whole way, mostly staring out the window, lost in thought. Back at the villa, I told her to go upstairs and rest while I went to my study. I dialed my father-in-law, Robert Sutton. Hello, Logan? Are you and Stella back? Robert's voice sounded weary. Dad, we just got home, I said, getting straight to the point. There's something I need to talk to you about, regarding the company. The company? Robert was taken aback. What's wrong with the company? You have a mole. I briefly explained the situation with Vince Harmon and Victor Croft. There was a long silence on the other end, so long I thought he might have hung up. Logan, is what you're saying true? His voice sounded 10 years older. I'll email you the evidence shortly. Vince has been with you for 20 years. I know it's hard to believe. But business is war, and sentimentality will only destroy the entire Sutton family. Robert let out a long sigh. I understand. Logan, thank you. If it weren't for you, this old fool would still be in the dark. Dad, we're family. You don't have to thank me. Hanging up, I rubbed my temples. I knew the Sutton family was about to face a massive upheaval, and this was only the beginning. I walked out of the study and saw Stella standing at the doorway. You heard all that? She nodded, her face pale. My dad. The company will be okay, right? She asked, looking at me with a pleading gaze. Don't worry. As long as I'm here, the Sutton family will be fine. I promised her, my eyes locked on hers. Robert Sutton moved quickly. After receiving the evidence I sent, he acted decisively, using his authority to oust Vince Harmon from the company and report him to the police. Harmon's betrayal sent shockwaves through Sutton Corporation. The company's stock took a hit, falling for several consecutive days. Robert seemed to age overnight. For days, he locked himself in his office, dealing with the fallout. Carol was at home in tears, calling Stella every day, sobbing that the company was on the verge of collapse. Though Stella comforted her mother on the phone, she was clearly worried herself. I caught her staring at stock market charts on her computer several times. Don't worry, I said, wrapping my arms around her from behind and resting my chin on her shoulder. It's just a small storm. It will pass soon. She leaned back into my embrace and gave a soft Logan. She suddenly turned her head to look at me seriously. Is there anything I can do? What do you mean? My studio, it's not huge, but I've built up some connections and capital over the years. If the family really needs it, I can. No, I cut her off, my tone absolute. Your studio is your own creation. It has nothing to do with the Sutton or Vance families. It belongs to you, Stella Sutton, and you alone. I cupped her face in my hands, looking into her eyes, and said, word by word, listen to me. If the sky falls, I will hold it up for you. You don't have to do anything except focus on your designs and be the carefree Mrs. Vance. That's enough. Her eyes immediately reddened. She sniffled, buried her face in my chest, and said in a muffled voice, Logan, you're so bossy. I smiled. You're just now figuring that out? The crisis didn't pass as quickly as I had imagined. After Vince Harmon's downfall, Victor Croft, instead of backing off, doubled down. He started attacking Sutton Corporation's stock like a madman, sinking money into shorting it while using the media to spread all sorts of damaging rumors. Sutton Corporation was thrown into an unprecedented crisis. Banks called in their loans, partners terminated contracts, and employees grew restless. Robert Sutton collapsed. He suffered a sudden heart attack and was rushed to the hospital. When the news broke, Sutton Corp's stock hit rock bottom. When I arrived at the hospital, Stella and Carol were waiting outside the emergency room, sobbing uncontrollably. Stella. I walked over and pulled her into my arms. She clung to me like I was a lifeline, her body trembling violently. Logan, my dad. Is he going to be okay? He will be. The good ones are always looked after. I comforted her, my voice firm. Trust me. After what felt like an eternity, the ER doors finally opened. The doctor took off his mask and said, the patient is out of immediate danger, but his condition is still unstable. We need to move him to the ICU for further observation. We all breathed a collective sigh of relief. Seeing Robert on the gurney, pale and wearing an oxygen mask, Stella's tears started falling again. After getting her and her mother settled, I walked to the end of the hospital corridor and called Mark. It's time. My voice was as cold as a Siberian winter. Understood. Victor Croft, you want to play? Then let's play. I'll show you what happens when you mess with my people. The next day, a massive earthquake shook New York's business world. Vance Industries, along with several top investment firms, launched a sudden hostile takeover of Voyager Group. At the same time, evidence of Victor Croft's tax evasion, illegal fundraising, and stock market manipulation was anonymously submitted to the SEC and the FBI. Voyager Group's stock plummeted. Victor Croft himself was arrested by federal agents directly from his office. When one wall falls, everyone pushes. The same people who had once fawned over him now scrambled to distance themselves, some even kicking him while he was down. The once mighty Voyager Group collapsed and vanished within 24 hours. The news spread like wildfire throughout the city. Stella saw it all on the news. She watched the footage of a handcuffed, disheveled Victor Croft being pushed into a police car, speechless for a long time. She turned her head to look at me, her eyes filled with shock and a hint of awe. You did this. I didn't deny it. I just nodded. Why? Did you have to go that far? I warned him. I told him not to touch my people. I walked to her, caressing her cheek, my gaze intense and full of emotion. I told you if the sky falls, I will hold it up for you. Anyone who makes you shed a single tear, I'll make them pay for it for the rest of their lives. Stella stared at me, her eyes slowly turning red. Suddenly, she stood on her toes and kissed me. It was a hesitant, clumsy, yet incredibly sincere kiss. In that moment, my heart was overwhelmed with happiness. I took control, deepening the kiss. Outside the window, the sun was shining brightly. Robert Sutton stayed in the hospital for a month, but was eventually discharged without any lasting complications. The crisis had made him reevaluate many things. The first thing he did upon his release was to hand over full control of the company to me. He and Carol then retired to their old country house, living a semi-reclusive life. As he put it, he'd worked hard his whole life. It was time for a rest. Under my management, Sutton Corporation quickly recovered and, through deep integration with Vance Industries, found new life. Everything was moving in the right direction. My relationship with Stella, after that embrace in the hospital corridor and that hesitant kiss, had progressed by leaps and bounds. We no longer slept in separate rooms. She started acting like a wife, laying out my breakfast and tie every morning and greeting me with a warm hug when I came home from work. We would visit her parents on weekends or spend the entire day curled up on the sofa watching movies. The smiles on her face grew more frequent, genuine, radiant smiles that came from the heart. I would often find myself just watching her smile for long stretches, thinking that my life was complete. One day, I was in a board meeting when I got a call from my contact in Bali. "Mr. Vance, we have Caleb Shaw and Clara Sutton." "Good," I said, unsurprised. With Victor Croft's downfall, they were cornered rats. Without funding, they couldn't get far abroad. It was only a matter of time. "What are your instructions?" "Bring them back." "Understood." I hung up and continued with the meeting, but my mind was already on how I would tell Stella. That evening, I came home to a lavish dinner spread on the table. "What's the special occasion?" I asked with a smile, hugging her from behind and planting a kiss on her cheek. "A celebration for you landing another huge deal, Mr. CO," she said, playfully pinching my cheek, her eyes sparkling. After dinner, we snuggled on the sofa. After much hesitation, I finally brought it up. "Stella, there's something I need to tell you." "What is it?" She was curled up against me like a contented cat. "Caleb Shaw and Clara Sutton. They've been brought back." Her body instantly stiffened. I felt her tension and tightened my arms around her, holding her closer. "Where? Where are they now?" she asked in a low voice. "At the police station. Embezzlement of a significant amount. Caleb is facing at least 10 years. Clara was an accomplice. She won't get off easy." I stated the facts calmly. She fell silent. After a long while, she looked up at me and said softly, "Logan, I want to see them." "Okay," I nodded. "I'll go with you." The next day, through my arrangements, we met Caleb and Clara in an interview room at the police station. In just a few short months, they both looked like different people. Caleb was rail-thin and haggard, his eyes cloudy with despair, all of his former confidence gone. Clara was even worse for wear. Her hair was dry and yellowed, her skin rough. Dressed in a prison jumpsuit, she glared at us with eyes full of jealousy and venom. "Stella." The moment she saw her immaculately dressed sister, she lunged forward, only to be restrained by an officer. "You bitch. How dare you show your face? Are you here to laugh at me?" she shrieked hysterically. "You stole everything from me. I hope you rot in hell." Stella looked at her sister's crazed state, her face paling slightly, but her eyes were remarkably calm. "Clara, I didn't steal anything from you," she said evenly. "You were the one who gave it all up." "I gave it up? If it weren't for you, you little homewrecker, seducing Logan, would he have treated me this way?" Clara blamed everyone but herself. "Clara, that's enough." Caleb, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. He looked at Clara with disgust and regret in his eyes. "Even now, you still don't get it? I was the one who lost my mind. I'm the one who wronged Logan, who wronged Stella. It was all my fault. It has nothing to do with anyone else." He turned to me and suddenly dropped to his knees. "Logan, my friend, I'm so sorry. Send me to prison. I deserve it. But I'm begging you, let Clara go. She was just confused. I tricked her into it." Even at a time like this, he was still protecting her. I didn't know whether to call him devoted or just plain stupid. Clara stared at Caleb kneeling on the floor, stunned. Stella's eyes turned red. She looked at the pathetic pair before her. One, the sister she once loved deeply. The other, the man she once admired. Now all she felt was an endless sense of sorrow and pity. She took a deep breath, walked forward, and said to Caleb, "Get up, Caleb. You didn't wrong me. The only person you wronged is yourself." Then she turned to Clara. "Clara, I don't know what misunderstanding you have about Logan, but from the beginning to the end, he never did anything to wrong you. The marriage merger was his idea, but that was under pressure from our parents. He never loved you, just like I never loved Caleb." Her words left both Caleb and Clara dumbfounded. We were all living in our own fantasies, thinking we were part of some grand love story. In reality, it was just a self-deceiving joke. It's time to wake up now. After saying this, Stella looked as if a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She turned, walked back to me, and took my hand. Logan, let's go. I nodded, and holding her hand, I walked out of that oppressive room. Behind us, we could hear Clara's heart-wrenching sobs. But that had nothing to do with us anymore. Outside the police station, the sunlight was dazzling. Stella looked up at the sky, let out a long, slow breath, and a relieved smile spread across her face. It's all over, she said. Yes, it's all over, I said, squeezing her hand. On the way back, she leaned her head on my shoulder and fell asleep. Looking at her peaceful face, my heart filled with a soft tenderness. Back home, I carried her to our room and let her rest. I went to the study alone and stood before the large French windows, looking out at the garden. The gardener had done a wonderful job. Roses of all colors were in full bloom. It had been my mother's favorite place. I thought, if she could see how happy I am now, she would be overjoyed. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I took it out. It was a text message from an unknown number. Mr. Vance, this is Clara Sutton. I know what I did is unforgivable. But before I go to prison, can I ask you for one thing? I frowned and replied with a single word. What? A new message came almost immediately. I know you never loved me. The only reason you agreed to the marriage merger was for Stella, wasn't it? My pupils contracted. Before our engagement, I was in your study once and accidentally found a sketchbook. It was filled with sketches of Stella, from when she was a teenager to her 20s, all different versions of her. That's when I knew how deep your feelings for her were. I was so jealous and scared. I was afraid you would actually get together with her, so I agreed to Caleb's plan to elope. I thought if I left, the merger would be off and you would never have a chance to get close to her again. But I never imagined my parents would be so heartless as to make Stella marry you in my place. And I never knew Caleb was just using me from the start. Logan, I lost. I lost completely. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm only asking you to treat Stella well. She's a good girl. She deserves the best in the world. Please, you have to make her happy. I stared at the long message, silent for a long time. So that was it. Clara had known my secret all along. That's why she left so decisively. The strange twists of fate in this world were truly laughable. I deleted all the messages and walked out of the study. In the bedroom, Stella was awake. She was sitting at her vanity, staring at something. I walked over and saw that it was a very old sketchbook. It was the one I had treasured for years, the one filled with drawings of her. She must have found it somewhere. When did you wake up? I asked, feeling a little guilty. She didn't answer, just looked up at me, her eyes red. Logan, are all of these drawings? Of me? Yes. I walked behind her, wrapped my arms around her, and admitted it freely. When did you start? A long time ago. So long. I can't even remember. The first time I saw her was at an art exhibit. She was only 16, wearing a white dress, standing transfixed before a Monet painting of water lilies. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing her in a golden halo. In that instant, my entire world faded to gray, and only she remained. Later, I found out she was the overlooked younger daughter of the Sutton family. To get closer to her, I started paying attention to the Suttons, planning collaborations with their company. I even agreed to that absurd marriage merger. All my love for her was poured into the sketchbook. I thought the secret would die with me. I never imagined she would discover it like this. Stella turned the pages one by one, tears falling like broken pearls, soaking the paper. Logan, you big idiot, she said through her sobs, turning around to playfully hit my chest. I let her, smiling as I took her hands and pulled her into a tight embrace. Yes, I'm an idiot, a big idiot who has loved you for many, many years. She stopped struggling, burying her face in my chest, and crying even harder. Her sobs were a mixture of grievance and relief, but mostly the joy of something lost and found again. After a long time, she looked up at me, her face tear-streaked. Logan, I once asked you what kind of person you are. Now I know. You're a big liar who stole my heart, and then pretended to be innocent. I leaned down and kissed the tears from the corners of her eyes. Well then, Mrs. Vance, are you willing to be fooled by this big liar for the rest of your life? She laughed through her tears, stood on her toes, and pressed a firm, deliberate kiss on my lips. I am.